Hello everyone. Today we are going to be looking at objects and lists in relation to our JavaScript Button website. But first of all, I wanted to kind of look a little bit as a review of before um, about how you can change the names of things and what affects what. So if you wanted to change, but first of all, before we do that, we want to start by launching our website just so we can get to a place of recognizing where we are. So I like that this be the default on this side that I'm in because that way I can see all the files I'm in. But I'll click this button where the run and debug, and if you click this button right here, this actually shows up the localhost 8080, which is not what we want. We want to be, and when we, so to change this so that it actually launches our website, let's click on this gear, and this opens up a configuration file. And this is actually a good example of what an object in a list is. So if we look at the top level, an object's always wrapped in curly brackets. So not everything that's curly brackets is an object, but every object is wrapped in curly brackets. So this is an object, and objects are also recognized by key value pairs. So the key is version, the value is 0.2.0. The key on this key is configurations, and the value is a list. So this square brackets represents a list, and this curly brackets represents another object. So you have an object with a list inside of it, with an object inside of it. So this object is a configuration object, and I'm saying that because it says configurations is the name of this. So so this is basically, so if I wanted two items in this list, I can actually copy this, put a comma here, and then paste, and now I've got a list with two objects in it. But I don't want that, so I'm going to delete that. And one of the things I do want to do, I want to modify this configurations object because the name of this configurations object is relating to this, launch Chrome against localhost, launch Chrome against localhost. Well, we don't want to launch Chrome against localhost, we just want to launch Chrome. So I'm going to delete that, and now if I save, you can see up here it's reading this object and it's saying, oh, now it's named launch Chrome. So it's no longer named launch Chrome localhost. Well, the bigger problem that we want is we don't want to launch this HTTP localhost 8080. This is not for just doing a website. This is for doing more of a web app or like a back-end API. So we're not doing that right now. We'll be doing it later, but not right now. And so what we want to do is we want to delete this, and instead we want to replace it with the website. So when we're running this locally, it's always going to be the file path. That's the website. The file path of the HTML. So if I right click on this, there's a copy path link. So I'm going to copy that path, and then I'm going to go back into my launch.json file. That was a configuration file that I got to by going here and hitting this gear button. I want to paste this in with Command V. And now I don't want to just paste that. I want to also, if you have a Windows, that might work just to do that. But I have a Mac, so I have to type file : //. And so it gives me 3 slashes, and it recognizes this as so this is now this is just going to launch me. So if I hit save, this should just open up my website now. There you go. So that's kind of the first thing that we want to do. So now we can easily see our website. So just to make sure I'm working right here, banana, and click me. Hello, banana. All right, so if I go back up here, and I want to now look at my index.html. So what I was saying is that say I want to change the ID of this from inserted name to text input. Now I can actually, you always want to use camel case with IDs. Camel case means the first letter is lowercase, but then the next word, the beginning of every word after that is uppercase. And there's no spaces or dashes or anything like that, or underscores. It's just word in a word with another uppercase. So it looks a little bit like a camel, I guess. I don't know. But so if I just copy that, and this is where it's being referenced. So it was referenced with in the ID name and then .value, which gets the value from that. So if I paste this in, and all I do is just change this and this, everything still works because this is the only place where that value is being referenced. I know that in our JavaScript function, we had something called input name, but this is just defining the name of the parameter that we're going to use in this function. I could call this anything I want as long as I also change this one, because these two names are linked. This is where it's defined, and this is where it's, although this is referencing what's in here, and you could name this the same thing, but it's just because you can name it the same thing, not because it has to be named. These two have to be the same as each other, but these two do not have to be the same as these two. So because this is the signature of the function, any parameter names you add here are only going to be relevant inside of the context of this function, which is inside these curly brackets. These curly brackets are not defining an object. They are defining the content of a function. And you can tell because there's no key value pairs in here. Also because it has a word function in front of it and the function name with parentheses after it. So this is what a signature of a function looks like. So let's go ahead and look at our, so let's go back over here and let's save, Command S, and I'll go back over here, and on our web page we refresh this. So if I then type red and I hit click me, it says hello red. So as you can see, it still works, right? So if we want to go in here and we want to change this name of the parameter, we can call this input value, although it is, or input value. So if we, and then change this to input value. If I don't change this to input value, it's not going to work. So if I had this is input value, but this is still input name, they don't match, and this is what it's going to look like. So if I save this and I go here, and then I refresh this, and then I type happy, and then I hit click me, nothing happens. This is in control, but it's not happy with your lack of putting a variable name in here. So if, or referencing your variable correctly. So if I copy this, and then I paste it here, and then I save, now when I go back here, and then I refresh this, and then I say happy, and click me, now it's happy. So, so this is a variable name, and this is a variable name. Now let's go ahead in here and change this output. Now this is a little bit different, because if I change this output to be, just say displayed text. Now output isn't anywhere else on this file. It's not being referenced here. So if I save this and I go to my website, if I refresh this website and I say Bob, and I say click me, the alert doesn't work. Actually, the alert should still work. Inside of index.html. Oh, did I not refresh that? Oh, you know what? I think I maybe didn't save this index.html file. So if I save that, save this, go over here, refresh this, type bob, click me. So I put input value here and input value there. Output doesn't work because I've changed it to text, displayed text. But text input should still work. You know, it might not be working because it might be crashing when it actually gets to the, oops, let me close this because I don't want this. Okay, I guess I can't close that. What? Whatever. All right, so if I go here now, I want to, so in my JavaScript file, I want to, so apparently I have to have something that references a real value here. So what's happening here is the reason why it's not working at all is because when it hits this line, the application crashes at this point. We have an output. Yeah, so we have an error, an uncaught type error. Cannot set properties of null setting internet HTML. So this is because it can't find this output ID named output. It's crashing, and so it never gets to this line. And this sometimes will happen with code, is that one line will crash and the next line won't run because this line crashed. Every line has to, this line has to successfully get past this line before it can get to this line inside of a function. And in other places in code too, but not, yeah. So inside of a function specifically right now. So if I then go, so let's just go ahead and make it work. So if I then grab displayed text from here, and then I go into here and I paste displayed get element by ID, because that's the ID we changed, and we change displayed text to here, and we save this. Now if we go back to our this guy and we type Bob, oops, I got to refresh this too. Hit click me. This is working again, and this is also working. So this is a get element by ID. When we're using this to actually change what's happening in what they call the DOM, which is the index, your HTML file, then yeah. This is how you would change that ID. Let's say we want to change the name of this from onClick to onPress, right? Or to yeah, we'll just call it onPress right now. So onPress, and we just change the name there. And then if we go into the JavaScript file, we change this to onPress, and now we've got. If I save this, and I go in here and save this, now those things are, and I refresh this, Sally, and I hit click me. Hello, Sally. So now I've got it working again, and now I'm control is also working again. So so that's basically some looking at how we can change these values just to understand what's connected to what and what's doing what. But now let's go ahead and look at something called the console log. So we have this debug console here, but let's look at our console log here. So if I right click on this, hit the inspect tool, and I'm going to go over here, and I want this to be on the bottom, so I'm going to say, I want you to dock this on the bottom. This is the dock to bottom thing. So now it's showing down there, and now I hit console, so I can see my console logs. So this is the thing that you were seeing here, the debug console. If I put an error in here, say I take text input 2, and then this isn't going to be a problem, but this is going to be a problem now because it's trying to reference something that's not valid. So whenever I press that button, it's going to be like, what? I don't know what that is. So let's go ahead and save that. So Command S to save this file, and then refresh this. And now if I type this and I hit click me, I get an uncaught reference error. Text input is not defined because that is not the name. Text input is not the name of it. It's text input. Text input is not the name of the ID. The name of the ID is for our input tag is text in. It was changed to text input 2. So this is now equivalent, and you can see the same error is showing down here. Uncaught reference error. Text input is not defined. So uncaught reference error. Text input is not defined. It's the same error showing here, but it's just more. It's more immediate. The feedback loop is just a little bit smaller because you're looking at this screen right here. So you can instantly see what the problem is here. I don't know. For me, I just like it better because it's less going on in this page. So and that way I can kind of just be focused on what I'm at over here. So let's go to our let's go inside of our JavaScript file, and at this point, let's go ahead and do a log. If I type log and hit tab, it automatically gives me a console log. This is code completion. Very valuable thing you can do with IDEs. For console log, I'm just going to start with hello, and say hello logs or hello console. All right, so if I hit save on that, Command S to save, and then I go back over here. Now, if I refresh this button, if I hit click me, you see hello console down here. And this could be a very useful way to debug things and to understand how your code works. But we're going to use it right now to show you how to reference objects. So we're going to start with using the var keyword, or I should call it const, because const is a good keyword to use. You should be the default keyword used for all of defining a variable. So we're going to call this we're going to call it Bob. All right, so Bob, this is going to be our user. We'll call it user, and then we're going to give this an object. And objects are represented by curly brackets and by key value pairs. So if I put name colon and then Bob here, and then I save, now I've referenced this. This is name and this is Bob. If you notice, I put over here, the keys have quotes in them, and in my JavaScript file they don't have quotes in them. It's not surrounded by quotes. The reason for that is that this configuration file that we were looking at is actually what they call JSON, JavaScript Object Notation. And JavaScript object notation is what's used to send data over the internet from backend APIs. So this can be converted into an object if you receive it. It looks just, but the one significant difference is that with JSON the keys have quotes around them. But so right here we're just going to say name Bob. Okay, so now we want to say hello space, and then we're going to say plus, and we're going to reference this object. And to reference the object, type user dot, and see how it gives you the auto completion right here. It says, oh, there's a field name that you can, if I just click this, that's going to reference this name in the object. So the object is named user, and I'm referencing the name field. This is called a field in an object, and the name field is going to be Bob. So now whenever I hit save, it's going to say hello Bob. So whenever I refresh this page, and then so I don't actually have anything I'm typing in here because I'm not using that right now. But if you look at this, it says hello Bob now, because now I'm referencing the name that's inside of our object called user. So next we want to look at how to reference a value in a list. So let's create a list. So I'm going to create a list called any variable that you create, you start with a const or a let. Const is the default. You should use that most of the time. If you're going to change the value later, then you would use a let. But for now, we're using const. And so now we're going to say users. And users, usually when it's a plural, that means it's a list, because this is going to be a list of objects that have, one is going to be Bob. Actually, we can say Sally. We can say comma name Jerome, and we'll just have 2 items in our list. So this is basically saying that there's, oops, I actually got an extra curly bracket there. So all right, so now I put a semicolon at the end, and I should have put a semicolon at the end of here. Sometimes JavaScript is forgiving, sometimes it causes problems. So, this is the closing curly bracket, should be here. So this is the opening curly bracket and the closing bracket, because this is one object. Comma separates the 2 items in a list, and then the opening and the closing curly bracket of the second object. If I wanted to make a list of just names, I could say const names, and this would just equal strings. So in this, I would have a square bracket, and I would just say Sally, and then comma, and then Jerome. And this is the same thing, but this is just a list of strings, where this is a list of objects that have strings in them. And so the way you reference these is, I'm going to do a console log. So I'll just start log and hit tab. Log and hit tab. What? Suddenly it doesn't work? All right, so console.log, and then I'm going to say, I'm just going to reference the name now. So I'm just going to names, and then I'm going to do square brackets 0. And what 0 is the index. The index is basically saying that for every list, the first item in that list is considered the number 0. This is number 1. If you had more, it'd be number 2, number 3, and so on. So in this one, it's also 0. Sally is also 0 in this one. So if I hit save on this, this is referencing in my names of just a string. It's referencing what they would call the 0th, the first item in that list. So, and this list is also called an array. Oftentimes in JavaScript, it's more specifically, accurately called an array, because a list is more. There are lists. There's some classes that there's some languages that have lists that are different than arrays. List tends to be a more complex object, whereas array tends to be very simple. But array basic. I mean, for the sake of like language and helping you understand what it is, I'm using the word list right now. Eventually, you'll probably want to call these arrays, but an array basically is a list of values. And so here, so we're referring to the first one here. So we go back over here and we refresh this page, Now I click me, and so now it just says Sally because we're referencing just Sally is the 0th in here. So so if I say, and you can actually do concatenation here by putting commas between things in console log, because see this dot 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 up here. This means it's an args. So data is the name of the parameter. Any list is the name of the type of the parameter. So log is the name of the function, and but the dot 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 means that you can put one or more arguments of the same type, and it'll turn it into a list inside of the function. But so now if I just do the first one I say, and what this is going to do is just going to basically say, well, I'm going to log all these things side by side. So list of our first name in list, and I could put a couple dashes just so we can see. All right, so save. And now if I go over here and I refresh this, hit this button, and it says first name in list, and it says Sally. So now let's create another log. I'm going to copy this just to make it a little easier for myself. I'm going to paste this, and now I'm going to say first name in list of objects, and I'm going to say users. Actually, I'm going to say second name. Second. And this is where it can be a little confusing, because if you do a reference of the index of 1, 1 is always the second item in the list, and 2 is always the third item in the list, because the first item in the list is always a 0, because they're what they call 0 indexes. So most lists in most languages that you'll deal with are 0 indexes on lists. And lists are very common across all languages. Every language has a concept of a list. Every language has a concept of an object, or something very similar to an object. They might be called something slightly different, but those types of data representations are the same, are very similar. So now I'm saying users 1. Now if I just do users 1, what do you think is going to happen? Well, let's look. So if I do this, and then I save that, and then I click me. So now it's saying, oh, there's an object. It's not returning just a string. It's returning an object with name Jerome, because it's not actually, I'm not referencing the name. I'm just referencing the item in the list. So I need to, if I want to say just Jerome, I would say users 1. Now I'm in this object right here. And so to reference the value of an object, we type dot name. And now if I hit save, and I refresh this page, if I hit click me, now I am referencing Jerome, because I'm referencing an object inside of a list. So this is the list I'm referencing, the second item in the list, and that I'm referencing the dot name field in that second object in the list. So I hope this was helpful, and enjoy your coding.